Hey, what's up? My name is Daniela and welcome to the announcement of Project TBR Zero 2025. So as the title suggests, this autumn I'm embarking on a very exciting project, and that is to bring my physical TBR to zero. For some background, I've already done this kind of project once before. It was in 2023. It was a wild ride, and there is a vlog, so I will link that above and below. And obviously I'm going to vlog this year's round 2. But without further ado, let's get into some of the specifics and the rules. I guess one of the biggest questions might be, why would you do a project like that? Because I know that a lot of people like to have a big TBR, a lot of selection, and I know that for a lot of people this would be quite unrealistic to do, especially in the span of a few months. But my situation is a little bit different. I like to have a smaller TBR, and above all, I like to keep my shelves moving. I like them to be dynamic. I like to read the books I get as soon as possible, or within a few months, definitely like within a year, because the more they sit on my shelves, the less I'm usually excited to read them. And yeah, that's just not the vibe I'm going for with my bookshelves and with my reading. And although, let's be honest, the TBR project of 2023 was not easy, but after I finished it, I was very happy about the result. The feeling of clean slate was unbeatable. But as you can imagine, things went a little bit south after that. So in 2024 I just continued to buy books as usual, as before the project, and books started to pile up. I went on some trips. There were some independent bookstores that I visited and I wanted to support them, so I just collected quite a few books that I wasn't reading. So right now I have on my TBR books that have been sitting on the shelves from spring or summer of last year, and this is just not something I like. So that's the main reason why I'm doing this challenge again. I want to clear out the shelves of the books that I have had for a while. I want to have a clean slate, and in 2026 start again with the books I'm currently excited for. Now, I have mentioned that if books sit on my bookshelf for a while, I tend to lose a little bit of interest in them, and that's kind of the case with the books I currently own. So would I be like super sad if I unhauled most of them right now? No, like I could totally do that, but I don't want to do that, because even though some of them are kind of random, because as I mentioned, I sometimes wanted to like support a bookstore, so maybe they didn't have like my top picks of my TBR, but I still wanted to buy something, so I could get rid of them. But I'm not going to do that, because you know what, like these books are still something that I'm interested in. At least in theory, you know, I picked them up for a reason. So I'm not going to give up on them, and I'm going to give them a chance at least. One rule I have is that I am allowed to DNF if I really don't click with the book, but I definitely want to give them a proper try. But yeah, I'm not going to be forcing myself to finish a book if I'm really not enjoying it. The deadline of this project is the end of the year, which is a little bit ambitious at this point, especially because my reading pace this year hasn't been super quick. The last quarter tends to be a little bit busy with life things, but it is the goal and we're going to do the best to reach that. Another rule concerns book buying. So I'm not going on a book buying ban per se, but obviously it would be quite detrimental to the challenge to buy more books at this point. But one thing is that I really like to read seasonally, and I don't have many like autumnal books on my TBR, so I might make a few exceptions and try to squeeze in a couple of books. But we definitely can't go overboard, because otherwise the challenge would not get done. A very important fact to mention is how many books do I have on my physical TBR right now, and the number is 20, which for some of you might not be that many. Maybe you read 10 books a month, maybe you read 20 books a month, so you will be able to get this done in a month or 2 months. As I said, I've not been reading super quickly this year, so the number itself is kind of a challenge of itself. But the real challenge of a project like this is to actually stick to the TBR, stick to the physical books you already own, and not get distracted by any other books. So library books, ebooks, audiobooks, too many seasonal reads, you know, that's the real challenge. I'm a mood reader, so especially when the stack starts to dwindle, it tends to be quite difficult for me to just take the next book, no matter the genre, no matter my mood, and just stick to it. So I guess we have kind of covered the most important aspects of this project. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But now let's go through the 20 books that are my physical TBR. I have made a little page in Notion because I'm a big Notion fan, and I have realized that it is not as varied by genre that I would have liked. Like, there are a couple of different genres, but still I think it will be quite challenging when it comes to the mood reading. I won't be going into the full synopses of these books because I will vlog reading them, so I will talk about them in more detail in that video, but let's look at them. First I will go through the fiction books and then we will go through the non-fiction books. So first we have The Henna Wars by Abida Jaigirdar, and this is a young adult contemporary story. It is a sapphic story, so we have our main character and it's kind of coming of age. Her family is homophobic, she meets a girl, that kind of stuff. Next we have The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. So this is a historical fiction about slavery. I got this very randomly in a swap. That wasn't something I would necessarily pick up. I don't tend to like historical fiction that much, I don't pick it up often, but it is now in my position and we're going to give it a try. Next we have Ramona Blue by Julie Murphy. So this again is a young adult, coming of age, realizing your identity, contemporary story. Then we have Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde, and it says 3 friends, 2 love stories, 1 convention. So admittedly I don't know that much about this one, but it's a young adult story. I know there's a disability rep. We have a main character who is a vlogger, and there is some convention and geeky stuff apparently. Sounds good. Then we have The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is a historical literary fiction with some gothic vibes, and it has a really similar premise to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Next we have Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. So again, historical, literary, sapphic. I'm scared but excited. Then we have All This Could Be Different by Sarah Thinkham Matthews. I got this in Gaze to War in London, so it is a queer story. It is an adult contemporary about a girl who moves to a new town and she's having some sort of existential crisis, which, to be honest, always relatable. Another young adult contemporary with a sci-fi twist. We have Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. So this is about a boy who meets a girl and falls in love, but after some time the girl dies, and then he has the opportunity to go back in time, repeatedly I think, and try to save her. Next up, She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Alison Derrick. So this is a sapphic young adult contemporary. I follow the authors on Instagram and they are a couple in real life, and yeah, I've just been really excited to give this one a try. Next we have The Color Purple by Alice Walker. So this is a historical fiction set in the deep American South between the wars. Again, I'm scared. It's a hard-hitting historical fiction, but I've been really interested in this book and reading more classics and modern classics by Black authors in general. Another classic, we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So a few years ago I read like a few chapters of this book in another edition. I think I had it from the library, but I never finished it. I never watched the adaptation. So I finally want to finish the whole story, then maybe watch the adaptation as well. But yeah, it's just a classic that needs to happen. Like, by this point I've been spoiled obviously, but yeah, needs to happen. Then we have Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. I have read Girl, Woman, Other by this author, really enjoyed it. And this one I wasn't super interested in based on the premise, but then some people, including Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, have been really raving about this book, and that kind of convinced me to give it a chance. This is about an old black man who was born in Antigua, and when he was young he married a woman and they moved to London, but his secret is that he's gay and his whole life he has had an affair with his best friend Morris. His wife is very suspicious of him and things are going to explode. And then we have Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert wrote the Brown Sister series, which is one of my favorite series of all time. So Even though I wasn't that excited about her young adult novel, to be honest, I knew that I needed to read this, so that's why it's on the TBR. So this is a young adult contemporary about two kids in high school who used to be best friends, but then they stopped being friends, and now there might be some attraction between them. They're competing for a scholarship. This also has OCD rep. And then we have a children's classic, and that is Los Cinco y el Tesoro de la Isla by Enid Blyton. So this is the first Famous Five book in the series. I have read this book many times in Czech, and this year in January I got it in Spanish. When I was in Spain, I have started it and it wasn't going that bad, like for the fact that I'm still very much a beginner, but I haven't continued. So it is on the project so that I am motivated to finish it. Funny thing that I've actually never read it in English, you know. And then we have the last two fiction books on my TBR, and while I'm not really ready for autumnal reads, because I don't think that any of the books on my TBR really count for an autumnal witchy read, I am kind of ready for Christmas, because I have at least these two books, and I really do like reading Christmas or in general holiday winter books in December. So the first of them is The Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels, and this is a sapphic adult romance that has a very similar premise to another sapphic book that I have read, and that was Make You Mine This Christmas. So we have a woman who is fake dating a man for the holidays, and then she falls in love with his sister. And then we have 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. So this is a young adult contemporary, and it is about a girl who has been dumped, and then her family sets her up for 10 dates. I really tend to like young adult Christmassy contemporaries. They really give me kind of a nostalgic feeling, so I hope this one will be a hit too. Alright, so now let's look at the non-fiction ones. I only have 4 non-fiction on my TBR at this point. So first we have Neuroqueer, a neurodivergent guide to love, sex and everything in between by CJ Debarra. I got this one also at Gaze the World, so hopefully it will be a good time. Next we have Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This is a celebrity memoir. I don't know her, but I know that she's autistic and people have been saying good things about it, so I've definitely been intrigued. Then we have Disability Visibility edited by Alice Wong. So this is one of the most known books in the disability book sphere, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And the last book on my TBR is actually the book that I acquired last, and this is a book that I got for my birthday from Cleo from the channel Bemuse Bookworm, so thank you again, Cleo. And it is Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen, and I've been wanting to read this for a couple of years, so I had it on my wish list, so now it will be finally time to read it. So that is my physical TBR. This is my TBR Zero project. Let me know your thoughts, let me know if I should prioritize any of these books, and if by any chance you are also attempting TBR Zero, definitely let me know. Tag me in your videos. As I said, there will be a vlog with me attempting to read all of these books, so stay tuned for that. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!